This presentation will introduce some guidelines for writing requirements. Following these guidelines will help you to formulate requirements that are clear and unambiguous and easy to understand. The first guideline, it's about atomic requirements. The idea is that you shouldn't combine several small requirements into a big requirement. Instead, you should keep the requirements small and simple. Because if you keep them atomic, as small as possible, they will be easier to understand and verify than more complex ones. Let's take an example here. The original requirement is here on the top left. It's about a game. The game should be fun to play, easy to learn, execute on both laptops and the mobile devices, and help children to learn mathematics. Okay, maybe not that difficult to understand, but still it's a mouthful and there are many different things going on here. It becomes simpler if we divide it into 5 atomic requirements. The game should be fun to play, and the game should be easy to learn, and so on and so on. Then each of these requirements is very small, it's clear and unambiguous. Another way of making requirements more easily understandable is to use a consistent format so they always sound in the same way. And then we should start each requirement with the artifact should or the artifact shall. And we use the artifact should for high-level requirements and the artifact shall for low-level requirements. Okay, it's of course a bit arbitrary, you might say. Why should we have should and shall in exactly this way? And it is a convention, but many people adhere to this convention, so it is familiar for many people, and therefore it's good to stick to it. And in any case, we get a consistent format, similarly sounding requirements, and that makes it easy for people to directly see what's going on. Here are some examples then. The user interface should be visually attractive, clearly a high-level requirement, so it's should. The drone should be reliable in winter weather, maybe a bit more concrete, but reliable is still, not a very precise word. The database shall be able to store salary information, really a low-level requirement, as is also the last one. The drone shall have a range of 25 kilometers. Yet another guideline here is about exactness and clarity and about avoiding vagueness. And simply done, this can be achieved to some extent by avoiding vague words. For example, normal and versatile and enhanced and timely. These words can mean very many different things to different people, and they don't have a clear borderline. What is timely it's a continuum what is timely really. Let's see a couple of examples here. A vague requirement could be this one on the top. The database shall offer short response time. But what is short for some people? It might be 1 second. For another person, it might be a tenth of a second. Third person might be happy about 5 seconds and so on. Better to make it precise. The database shall have a response time below 2 seconds. Or the second requirement here, the mobile app shall be available on many platforms. But what does many mean? Does it mean 2 or 5 or 20? Instead, we can be more precise and just list all the platforms for which we want this mobile app to work. And a final guideline here is about verifiable requirements. If possible, we should try to make requirements verifiable. That is, it should be possible to objectively determine whether or not the requirement has been fulfilled or not. And if you have those verifiable requirements, it's much easier to evaluate an artifact. You can really tell if it has fulfilled the requirements or not. Of course, we should now be aware that it's not always possible to formulate requirements in a verifiable way. Sometimes we might even like to have some fancier, very high-level requirements just to guide our design and not to work as instruments for carrying out evaluation. But very often it's nice to have the requirements verifiable. Let's take this one. The user interface should be user-friendly. Okay, it's not in itself bad as a high-level requirement, but we can make it more verifiable. Splitting it up into the user interface shall be menu-driven, and the user interface shall offer the following mechanisms for user input: dialog boxes, radio buttons, spin buttons. And as you can see here, what we do is that we start with some high-level requirement and we analyze it and break it down into a number of low-level requirements, and the latter ones, they are indeed verifiable.